Kenny, Cooper, I am so excited about our guest today. The greatest stories ever. Hall of Fame stories.
Oh,
for We Need a Fourth. Am I right?
Indeed. In fact, longest interview we've done and fascinating all the way through.
And the least amount of work on our end. You literally you throw up a topic
always
and
a benefit for you. Rich Lerner, listen, he tells stories about his time with Arnie. He tells an amazing story about a couple of giraffes with Jack. He spent 30 years covering golf for the Golf Channel, starting in 1997. Oh, yeah, when Tiger burst onto the scene at the Masters. So we talk Tiger. We talk very frankly about Bryson and who Bryson was and who he is now. Fascinating stories from Rich.
Record-setting show after this music.
Hello, boys and girls. How we doing today?
I'm happy.
We're all good there, Cooper Manning.
Cooper. Man, Kenny's Bomber's getting worse at it, and Kenny's getting better, which has never been the case for anything on this show.
You want to know why I'm happy?
Tell me.
Why?
Cooper took over as my stylist about 2 months ago, and he said, you have to wear blue. It pops. It goes with your eyes. I threw out all my other clothes. I gave them out on the street. And then when Cricket said, what would
and
you
they
like?
were never taken. They're still there. No one even came. Everybody
People
looked at them. Nope.
They got Seahawks people all over town. Look at this blue Cricket. It's comfortable. It's comfortable on or off the course. Free shout out our new sponsor, Cricket.
On and off the course. I haven't heard that before. Wow.
Have you played any good golf on the course, Kenny, of late?
Yeah, I slightly noted it last time, but not in detail. There's this guy named Daniel Belk. Shout out Daniel Belk. He started his own golf thing, so he had me on his show. He'd love to be on our show. He's just a regular guy, sold some businesses, decided, I'm going to go play golf now only. That's all he does. He's traveling the whole country. He stopped through the Northeast. We played up at the ranch. I played well for 9 holes. I sucked on the second 9, but good guy, good for him. Just out of nowhere, I'm doing a golf show, and he's going to hit the best courses all around the country over a year.
So he sold Belk's.
He sold a storage unit place and some kind of running club app, something. And I was like, oh, okay, well, have fun playing golf every day. I'm out here trying to make mortgages and pay for cat food, but yeah.
I can't relate. I don't know what a mortgage is.
He doesn't. He actually doesn't.
Archie paid cash for everything in 1964. They own most of the lower United States, the Thomas Jefferson area.
Yes.
Thomas Jefferson
area. I got to play Bel Air this past weekend, which it is a treat. Played with the great Skip Bronson and my friend Rosie and a wild man named Corey who owns the Cubs. Or at least he says he does. I believe the Cubs, and what a treat! I love when you go to L.A. and I don't go very, very often. But
Thanks for the call, by the way.
When it's warm there, they're like, "Oh my God, the heat here!" I'm like, "You don't know heat, buddy. I live in New Orleans. I walked in long pants. It was perfect. Everybody's going, this is a killer out here." I'm like, so goodness, it was perfect. So. What a treat.
So you asked the question just so you could brag about playing Bel Air?
Correct. And then the next day, Rosie and I, 2 days later, Rosie and I snuck out to try to play again. This is where I almost broke 80. And we played 9, and I shot 38 on the front, feeling really good. And it was just a little backed up. We had to meet the girls for lunch and didn't play. So anyway, there we are.
Wow.
Brian?
I don't know if you guys have heard, everyone in Scotland is talking about it. I shot 78 in blistering winds.
We talked about that.
At the old
They're
course.
still talking about it in Scotland.
They're still talking about it, and that's actually the last round that I play. I may never play again.
You
so
know
I
what?
can just keep referencing that as the last time I played.
When we get there, I'm going to see if our guest will freestyle an essay about your 78. Maybe
that brings me. There's always points in your life where people go, where were you when this happened? Where were you when this happened? Especially in sports. I mean, where were you when Leitner hit the shot? Or where were you when, Vinatieri made that kick? Or,
the Titanic went down.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, I know I wasn't that night. But I was curious, do you remember where you were when Tiger Woods won the Masters in 1997.
Ooh, 97.
I might have been covering the Goodies Headache Powder 500. I think I was still doing the car race show because I hadn't moved over to full Sports Center. I was doing it, but then again, I could have called it and blanked it out. But I remember it happening. That's for damn sure. He was only 20, 21, something like that. Tiger.
It was the best golf I'd ever seen. Right? I mean, how many people began at that moment watching and obsessing about golf? You know, I've talked about it a bunch. I don't know what it is. I wish someone could explain. Maybe our guest today can explain it to me, why Tiger's dominance made one root for him, whereas other dominance you root against, right? Like, unless you're a Yankees fan, you root against the Yankees. You rooted against the Patriots. You root against these dominant teams. But for him, for some reason, I became obsessed, right?
Yeah. Kenny, introduce our guest.
Yeah, our guest broke into his big time covering golf right about at that same time. He got to see the ascendancy of Tiger Woods, NBC Golf Channel. He's done it all for decades and decades. And like you said, not only calls the game, but he then writes a damn essay about it. And maybe he'll write one about his experience on the show. We'd love to read it. Let's just bring him on. Rich Lerner, how you doing, sir?
Good. Kenny, you're one of those guys that I just look at. You don't have to say anything, and I start laughing.
At me?
Yes.
If we're going to do an essay, it would be called Men in Blue. Usually, I'm part of what we call the quarter zip report.
There you go.
In our beloved sport of golf. I just started at Golf Channel. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
I just started at Golf Channel January of 1997. I was in studio in Orlando, Florida. And what I remember thinking was, and this is so rare in sports, there are very few comps here where when you see someone so young and immediately you know they're going to be an all-time great. I mean, how many athletes can we say that about? Maybe Magic Johnson jumping center for the Lakers with Kareem out in the 1980 NBA Finals, Game 6 in Philly, scores 42. They win the title. I think he was 20 years old. You knew immediately you're looking at an all-time great. No, there's just no question. And I think the same with Tiger. And remember, he shot 40 on that opening 9 and won by 12. You know, you win, you win football games by 12, basketball games. You don't win major championships by 12. And he did. And so you knew that we were in for a ride. And it was without a doubt the ride of my life. So to answer your question, Brian, why did we, root for the dominator? I do think in golf, typically, we have not rooted all that often for the underdog. It's sort of unique to the sport. You always pull, I always pulled for Nicklaus, later for Greg Norman, and then obviously Tiger Woods. Maybe when Phil came along, at least relative to Tiger, Phil was the underdog. So I think a lot of people began to pull for early Phil around 2000. 1, 2, and 3 in that time period. But, with Tiger, it wasn't just that, that he won, how much he won. It was how he did it in the most ridiculous ways. I mean, it was in the dark in Akron, Ohio. It was over the water in Canada out of the bunker. It was by 15 at Pebble Beach. And what I've always said about Tiger, and Cooper, you could weigh in on this, and Kenny, having covered all sports. 2000 Tiger, when he won the U.S. Open by 15 shots at Pebble Beach, I'm hard-pressed to find another example where the gap between the best in their sport and everyone else was as wide as it was then and there. Tiger was on the shores of the Monterey Peninsula, and everybody else, Phil and Ernie and Sergio, they were at a rowboat somewhere near Australia. It was, and I remember asking Ernie about this. I've shared this on some other shows. This one stopped me in my tracks. This was maybe 2010. So it was a decade removed from that dominant all-time season of 2000. I said, how how do you view this? What happened all these years later? And Ernie shared with me that his father said to him, his dad was a tough guy. He said, son, why don't you stand up to that man? And Ernie looked at his own father. He was not laughing. And he said, you have no fucking idea what we're dealing with here. Like Tiger was he was like a force of nature, like a tsunami. And I promise you, these are the toughest, most hard-nosed guys you'll ever meet. If the latest college sensation showed up on the driving range and it was, oh, he won the NCAA title, oh, he's the next great thing, they would turn around and say, I don't give a shit. These guys have played around the world and shot 65. They could not handle Tiger. They were left to try to figure out, how do you stop a 747 with a butterfly net? Impossible. So it was so staggering what we were watching, that he won by record margins, that he won 4 majors in a row. He won 6 tournaments in a row at one point, 7 in a row at another point, that you're like, just blow my mind. And every time you tuned in, this is what made Tiger, I think, the greatest performer of my lifetime in any sport. It was the consistency with which he blew our minds.
Is he undeniably the greatest golfer ever?
That's a good question. So there's a chapter in my new book, Aren't You That Golf Guy? Tiger v. Jack. And the ways to measure dominance, I think, or greatness in any sport would be your win percentage and margin of victory. So if you take like the recent Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team, they didn't win it this year, but the year before, they won their games by, what was it, an average? I'd have to go look it up, 13 points, something like that, over an 82-game stretch. Dominant team, and they won it all. So Tiger won tournaments in ways that Nicklaus never did. Tiger won the Masters by 12, the U.S. Open by 15. He won another tournament by 11. He won the Open Championship in 2000 by 8. He destroyed people in ways that Jack never did. Then there's the win percentage, and this one is kind of hard to wrap your head around. So you can make the Hall of Fame in golf by winning roughly 3% of your career starts if you've played for 20 years, let's say. So if you average, we'll just make conservatively say 20 tournaments a year, and you play 20 years, you have a nice long career, that's 400 starts. If you were to win, we'll give it 4%. That's 16 tournaments. If one of those is a major, you're very likely in the Hall of Fame. That's Mark O'Meara in this neighborhood. That's Freddie Couples, 15 wins and 1 major, 2 players, and was number 1 in the world. It's a nice resume. Freddie's career win percentage is slightly less than 3%, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So if 3% is good enough for the Hall of Fame, tell me, what is 22.5%? Yeah. That's Tiger's career win percentage.
Jeez.
He's a 450 lifetime hitter, and he won, he's Ohtani. At this point, I don't want to say Ohtani times 10, because Ohtani's, looking like he's going to be the Tiger Woods of baseball.
Right.
So 22% and change win percentage, and the dominance, the having done things that nobody ever did. He won 3 consecutive U.S. Junior Ams, then 3 straight U.S. Ams, and then he won 4 consecutive men's professional majors. Never been done before. All of that stuff. 82 wins to 73 for Nicklaus. So in terms of raw dominance, career win percentage, Tiger's the greatest player ever. And for that 10-year period of time, I think we can all agree, and what Tom Watson did, and Jack even did, that the game was never played better than the way Tiger played it. There's one caveat here. What's the one record that Tiger himself always pointed to as being most important?
The majors.
The majors, yeah.
Bingo. And the score major championships is 18 for Nicklaus and 15 for Woods. That's not that close, frankly. And so I think the takeaway there is how you take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit over the long haul matters. And Nicklaus, we can, I think, safely say, did a better job in that regard. So Jack is the greatest major champion ever. I think Tiger's the greatest player ever.
Rich, what I also recall during those dominant years of Tiger was just the lack of access to him. There was almost like this, you couldn't find out about him. You knew he was mean and tough, didn't give anybody a whole lot of time. I mean, he's the person he is today, where he's joking and having fun on, in a studio with Kisner and laughing at him, sculling a shot. That sort of behavior is so different than the one we grew up with, where he's staring down Curtis Strange on an interview when he's 21, talking like, I expect to win every one. And everybody's like, who the heck does this kid do? And who is this kid? And how he would be, he didn't like Phil and he didn't like Sergio.
He was like Jordan. I mean, he was imperious. He was brutal. He gave a shit about one thing, and that was just cutting your liver out. I mean, just winning. That there was nobody in the book. I get you sort of to the end and I try to assess Tiger, and it's obviously, with all that's happened off the course, he's a complicated figure. But nobody I've ever seen committed so furiously, so relentlessly, so completely to one thing, and that was winning, the way that Tiger did for that 12-year period. And then I think he just, he broke down. I think the body broke. I think, you just had a lot of hard miles on that chassis. And again, I explore this in the book in depth. There's a chapter called Existential Lurches, where, I theorize that, Tiger needed to be nothing, to be everything. That he in a strange way, he wanted to be stripped of parts. He wanted to be, break me, go ahead, and then watch me rebuild, watch me climb Kilimanjaro. And how many times did he do that? The Tiger comeback saga had I don't know, a dozen twists and turns. Sure. I can't tell you how many times we covered that Tiger comeback story breathlessly with cameras in the parking lot.
I saw an interview with Gary Player, and Gary was saying, if Tiger never changed one thing after that Pebble Beach performance when he wins the U.S. Open by 12, then he started dealing with different coaches, et cetera. If he would have just stayed with that thought, that swing, it was the purest golf he'd ever seen, he would have won 22, 24 majors.
Fair. 2000 Tiger, sinewy, wiry, rubbery, fast. 2000 Tiger, probably, I'm not a swing expert, but I bet I wouldn't get an argument, probably the greatest, most explosive swing in the history of the sport. So raises the question, why go searching when the 2000 swing produced the greatest golf we've ever seen? Hard to answer that one, other than to say I think Tiger was curious. I think it's possible that Tiger wanted to move on from Butch Harmon, who was his coach in that period of time. Theories that Butch was getting too famous, too big, taking credit, and so Tiger moves on, and Tiger, not lacking confidence, somewhere in his mind would say, I'll win with Hank Haney's swing. I'll win with Sean Foley. I'll win with Chris Como. And he's a tinkerer. He's the mind of a scientist. He's a genius. I firmly believe that Tiger was sort of like the tortured genius from another realm. Literary, musical, artistic genius who understands in ways that we'll never comprehend how to do this one thing, which is to control the golf ball. And, I think maybe the rest of the world, puzzled Tiger, or maybe he had difficulty fitting in. But there's a real genius there. And with that comes this belief that you're capable of doing it in a multitude of ways.
But isn't that golf for anyone, Rich, right? Like,
it is.
There is no perfect round. No. As he was better than everyone else, but it's still not perfect, right? So isn't that it, right? Just searching for perfection.
No, it's a good point, Brian. I mean, golf is a game that requires some technical mastery, but at a certain point, you have to go play the game, and you have to walk away from the driving range and your teacher, and you have to go to the first tee and put the peg in the ground, and you have to deal with whatever's happening. And we've all been there. Swing, you're not feeling it. I hit it great on the range. It doesn't feel the same, now that I'm on the course. And the best players understand that and will ride with whatever is happening. And Tiger, beyond the technical mastery, Tiger played, this is the term you hear on tour, he played the best small ball on and around the greens in the history of the sport. There was nobody at that level who was that good on and around the greens. And what's the most important factor in any sport with any athlete? You guys know this. It's how do you perform the clutch? I mean, who was better for that period of time than Tiger? When it needed to be made, it was made without fail. So those are the intangibles, and Tiger understood when it was time to leave the technical part behind and go play ball.
Your entree into golf is unmistakable because your parents had a putt-putt center and a driving range, and I think a little 9-hole pitch and putt type course, right? So you're a little kid growing up in that environment. Naturally, you had quite an interest. It was right there for you. Were you out there calling highlights? I mean, we used to announce our own wiffle ball games. Like, were you doing that as people were playing?
Oh, hell. You want to talk wiffles, Kenny? You want to? My brother Bob had a Steve Carlton-esque slider through 7 consecutive perfect games, 7-inning perfect games on a Saturday afternoon in 1971. I distinctly recall. So yes, I was. I might have been Harry Callis, swing at a miss, and he struck him out. So yes, I was calling action, and my dad started a driving range par 3 miniature golf in working class Pennsylvania, Bethlehem Steel, Mack Trucks, Lehigh Valley, Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, 1950s. Arnold Palmer was ascendant, also from the state of Pennsylvania. My dad, being a Wharton grad, was a smart guy. Cooper, you'll appreciate this as an entrepreneur in your own right. My dad had this great idea. He's going to get Arnold Palmer to lend his name to this new venture. They'll have a string of Arnold Palmer golf centers across the United States. It would have been Top Golf of the 1950s. But we all know that Arnold, as well, was a shrewd businessman. And when my dad found out Arnold's asking price to lend his name to this new venture, Dorneyville Golf Center was born, named for the little borough on the edge of town. Brian, I've got a good character for you. This is real. We'll work this out at a post show. We had a driving range pro named Frank Stocky. Frank worked at Willard Battery, worked at a battery plant by night, and then he hustled $5 lessons by day. And he was our Yoda. He dispensed all of the wisdom that no priest, rabbi, mother, father, teacher would ever touch about the real world. And he did it through the butt of an unfiltered Camel, which was like an appendage. And so, as on hot summer days, like 10 in the morning, we would sit around the picnic tables, and we're 15, 16 years old. Greatest summer job of all time. My 3 brothers and I ran it for my dad along with all of our friends. So we're sitting around, and Frank, again, we knew him as a gambler, a boozer, a working man, but he's actually a really good teacher as well. One morning, though, he says to us, One year, I led the Reading Open, in case you're interested, shot 69 the opening round with the camel just dangling like this. And I said, bullshit, Frank, come on. So I knew him as a driving range hustler. Who was in the tournament? How about Byron Nelson, Ben Hogan, and Sam Snead? Now he's a little pissed that I would question the veracity of this story. But I was already at 15, a budding Cub reporter, and I knew the appropriate follow-up question to ask. If a guy tells you he shot 69 in a real pro tournament and led Hogan, Nelson, and Snead, the follow-up is, what'd you shoot second round? And with that, out came the smoke through the nostrils. You've seen that guy. He could flick his cigarettes further than Adam Vinatieri kicked field goals, 47 yards end over end. And the answer to the question was, went out that night, got drunk, got laid, came back, shot 81, and missed the fucking cut. So this is where I fell in love with the game of golf. And what I want you guys to understand is if you ever watch us on live from at a major, and I'm sitting next to Brandel, and I asked Brandel, a partner, our overnight leader, 66 round one, shocking development on day two. He shoots 78. What happened? He's down the road. He missed the cut. And Brandel launches into one of his screeds about the golf swing. Spine angle got a little off. You see a little tilted, got a little too much forward shafting, and they cut away to me. Kenny, you know this, having been in the business. This is the where they cut away, and you need to what I call, you need to have the earnest anchor nod. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what is being said to you, you nod in agreement amicably. You're thrilled to be hearing it. It could be, my French poodle had explosive diarrhea, and you're like,
stoic.
Yeah. So like Nance owns that face. Tarico's great with the earnest anchor nod. But when they cut away to me, after I've asked Brandon what happened to our overnight leader, just know that in my mind, what I'm really thinking is, bullshit, Brandon. He went out last night, got drunk, got laid, came back, shot 81, and missed the fucking cut. So this is where
no wonder you like
I
golf.
grew up. We had some wild characters there. We had a security guard named Lou, who was on loan from the local prison. He was doing a stint for armed robbery, but he was out on this like work release program. We had a soda delivery guy named Mountain. Quick story about Mountain. So Mountain delivered A-treat sodas. We had a soda machine in a pinball room. And I'm not going to lie, it was late 70s and, teenage boys. Every now and then, little Johnny would come up to the counter and he would say, I went to get grape soda, but this came out. He was holding a Schlitz, which was being refrigerated for the grounds crew. Crew. Yeah. Because it was a hot summer day. Mountain was 6'6", 350, unkempt. We gave Mountain free golf balls every time he came to deliver sodas. Why? Well, number one, Mountain could hit it over the fence, 250, just massive long hitter. But probably most importantly, in addition to the sodas in the back of his truck, Mountain carried some magazines. Oh. He had Penthouse, Playboy, and my particular favorite of the 1970s, Breast Man.
Kenny's been in all three. No problem.
This was jarring for a 15, 16-year-old boy, Breast Man. Up until that point in time, I had thought, yeah, when I grow up, I'll be a fireman, maybe a policeman. If I wasn't good enough for any of those, a congressman. But unmoored, I had to tell my dad, Pop, when I grow up, I'm going to be a breast man. And so,
congratulations.
Thank you. I made it.
That guy sounds like he's the Mo Norman of beverage delivery. He did a little of everything. So he had to hit a ball. So clearly that was the point of the question. We didn't know we'd get the bonus stories. We could have just stayed out of the way and just had you go for an hour like a Bill Walton interview, but we're all divas and wanted some time. But so the game was infused in you. Then did you always say golf's my thing later? I mean, how did you even get to where you got?
Long story. Was in it. After Temple University, I worked for the local TV station in Allentown, PA, Channel 69, WFMZ TV.
Press man.
Yes. I begged the station owners, was an evangelical, great guy. I begged him, go to the FCC, I checked, Channel 70's available. So I was in it for 7 years or so. I was a bit of a party boy, not very disciplined, wasn't quite making my way. Where'd you hopscotch to, Kenny? You started where, and what was your route to ESPN?
I worked at a local station in Seattle as a gopher, 4 hours a night, then 7 hours to keep me off benefits. Finally got on TV. Then they shifted me to sports, which I didn't even want to do, actually. Then I sent the Joe Montana to John Taylor's Super Bowl 1989 to Al Jaffe. Got interviewed, didn't get hired, quit that job, made garbage cans, sold prepaid legal insurance, sold long distance for MCI. Then I got hired by ESPN. I went the Magellan route to get there.
I went to work at 30 thereabouts for my mom, who had a travel agency. I dropped out of the broadcast business because I was getting rejected by Beaumont, Texas. My route was going to be Allentown to Lancaster, Lancaster to Philadelphia. It wasn't happening. So Rob and I had a baby. We bought a house and joined the club and was going to have the secure life, working in the travel business, learning it from the ground up, selling trips to Disney. A guy calls one night. I'm 2 years in. I'm miserable. He says, we're booked in the 8 o'clock Hoop-Dee-Doo review. Could you change it to the 7 o'clock show? I put him on hold. I speed dialed my dad, who was the vice president. I said, Pop, I don't do the fucking Hoop-Dee-Doo review. I'm out. So I had known the late, great NBA referee Earl Strom, who was from nearby Pottstown, Pennsylvania. He knew a guy who was starting an all-sports radio station in Dallas, Texas. Can you believe this? It was straight sports news with interviews, no opinion. This was 1994, right before opinion sports talk radio blew up. I got the job in Dallas, and then the Golf Channel started in 95, and 96 I applied and got the job.
Dang.
So it was the Hoop-Dee-Doo review that got me to Golf Channel.
Did Mountain Man?
I landed there when I was 36, relatively late. So I've been there 30 years now.
Did you use Mountain Man as a reference? It was.
I did. Yes.
That's amazing.
Rich, for you to start your career, obviously covering one of the greatest golfers, or maybe arguably the greatest golfer of all time, but also you spent a majority of your career next to arguably one of the greatest golf commentators and one of the people who can stir it up with the best of them in Brandel Chambly. What has that experience been like?
Great. There's a chapter in the book's third chapter. It's called Brandel Breaking Windows, about his childhood in the Dallas area. I think Brandel's in the conversation. We'll say it that way. In the conversation, greatest desk analyst in sports television history, at my view. The breadth of his knowledge, depth of his research, his willingness to challenge convention, to take unpopular stances, to come after players when he thinks it's warranted, I think is unparalleled. He's a good soul. We spend a lot of time in those mobile trailers. They've cut back on like every broadcast entity. Those mobile trailers, Kenny, have gotten smaller and smaller. We are now in shipping. We're now in shipping containers. I was calling golf in Charlotte. I got out after a 4-hour stint, and I was in Kuala Lumpur with a fleet of Subarus. It's like it's. But in any event, we're on top of one another. We spend a lot of time together. He's great fun. He's funny. He likes history, politics, you name it. And our trailer's a little bit like cocktail hour. People are in and out, want to bullshit all day, and we're there for it. And, Brandel doesn't mind pissing people off. I think that's really what it comes down to. If you're going to be in that seat, you need to push some buttons, and you have to be provocative. And I think it's authentic. I know some people, will go that route just because, that's how you get attention. Brandel backs it up. Brandel's a great litigator. It's to work somebody who gets after it every single day, and I mean every single day, in the way that he does. Has been a privilege.
But for him to do his job well, though, seems like a lot of people are reluctant to, say the truth, because then it maybe affects their access. Does he need access to these players, and does he have it?
No, Brandel is, frankly, he's not, looking for attaboys on the range. It's customary, to walk the range at some point during the week, and hey, Roars, how's it going? Scotty, what's up? And hey, I saw your show the other night. I loved it. That kind of thing. You get that, sort of little buzzy feedback. Brandel's not interested in that at all. He wants to prosecute his case, and I think what gets overlooked sometimes is we show up for a major. The dominant stories, at least over the last 3 years, as an example, have been Scotty and Rory, and Brandel's tasked with coming up with some reasonable take that's different. 7 nights, of that major championship week, or at least Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday until the tournament begins. If Scotty and Rory are out of it, quickly, then he moves on. But typically they're not. And so it requires a level of originality and the ability to go find the answers. And he's always looking to explain to the audience why. Why is Scotty so dominant? Why, is Rory in the position that he's in? I think Brandel, again, I just repeat, I think he's one of the best to have ever done it.
You've been fortunate enough to sit across, the greatest golfers of the last 30 years. In the interview space, who do you personally find the most enjoyable? Who's a great interview? Who's, a lot of these golfers historically have, as Charlie, as it's been said, some guy said, in high school he had 14 friends and they were all in his bag. Some of these guys don't have a lot of personality. So, Charles Howell III said that. Who's funny?
Look, a lot of athletes are into the, I stayed in the process today. Take it one shot at a time, and it's not that interesting. I understand why athletes do that, but I would say of the current crop, Rory's probably the best interview because he doesn't give a shit. It was a nice place to arrive at. And, if there's a criticism of Rory, it's that he changes his mind, that, when the wind blows, Rory may blow with it, but I don't necessarily buy that. I think you're entitled to change your mind. I think Rory's been transparent. I love that he tells us exactly what he's thinking. We saw that with DeChambeau after the Open at Royal Birkdale. Rory's nothing if not authentic. Where he stands. Going back, I would say the best interview, there were 2 guys that always let it rip, Trevino and Nicklaus. Jack famously would show up to an interview and he would turn to his handler, Scott Tolley, and you get cranky Jack and say, "What are we doing here?" And I would say, "Well, Jack, we're going to blow smoke up your ass. We're going to start with the shot at 16 in 1986 and go from there. How's that sound?" And he was, once Jack sat down, and he trusted that, you weren't going to say anything stupid. Jack didn't suffer fools. You couldn't get him to stop, and he would answer any and every question thoroughly. So I would say Nicklaus, and Trevino similarly. When he was in the mood, Trevino was phenomenal, entertaining, deep. So I would say, those are the guys that I always enjoyed.
You know what they say in football, how certain coaches come from the so-and-so's tree, right?
Yeah.
I would argue, and this is a high compliment, I hope you take it that way, you have the broadcast ability and the writing ability. You're from the Jack Whitaker tree, right? I mean, do you know who influenced you to be a writer as well?
Yeah, look, I obviously, great admiration for Jack Whitaker, who worked, started out in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, at a radio station, which is not far from where I grew up, and then made his bones at the CBS affiliate in Philadelphia, where I interned in college for the late great Al Meltzer. It wasn't so much that I grew up saying I want to be Whitaker. The writing came late for me, and there was one moment I distinctly remember. I was working at the Travel the travel store, and it was a snowy night in Allentown. I pulled up to a red light, no cars on the road. I looked to my right, and there were 4 kids playing football in the snow, and their coats as goalposts. And I was moved. I thought, damn, reminded me of my childhood. It's all we ever did was just play outside in the neighborhood, uncoached, untethered to adults, and we made up our own games: box ball, wiffle ball, bat ball, fumbleitis, you name it. And the sort of the spirit and joy of that. And I grabbed a pen and a pad and I wrote, I didn't call it an essay, I just like wrote a page about what I saw and what I felt. And I thought, I don't know what this is, but it's something. And it struck me, maybe it's NPR. So I called the general manager of the NPR station, WHYY in Philadelphia. I said, I think I have something that would be great for your morning show. He said, we don't do that kind of stuff. I said, well, if you just give me a chance. He said, well, you have 90 seconds. Read it to me. Go. So I read it to him. There was silence on the other end. I thought, dumbbell, that was embarrassing. And he said, that's different. You get 1 a week. And that 1 a week, I mean, he might as well have told me, I graduated to play in the NBA because I love basketball. That really lighted a fire under me. And he gave me the freedom to write whatever I wanted. I could write about the Eagles or the Phillies, or I could write about wiffle ball in the backyard. And I did both. And that, I was maybe 30 years old. And then, once I got to the Golf Channel, I had that itch, and they let me scratch it. The beauty of having been at the Golf Channel in those early years was that the green light was always on. I raised my hand, and they said, sure, that sounds good. Go for it. And I started writing the essays maybe, I'm going to say 98, and just kept going. And it's a hell of a thing you write on deadline at a major. Without knowing the outcome, and I have to be on set, to do the show. So there are many days where I've written 6, 7, 8 different endings to what's what we're watching, and this last one was a good example. The first part of it was obviously DeChambeau because of that was the story of I think when we look back, the story of that Open will have been DeChambeau and what happened on that Friday night. But in the end, it's still and always about the guy who won it, and Ryan Fox. If you ask me best interviews, if the category is guys you want to sit down and have a beer with, Foxy's the guy. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the interview that he did with us after he won. His father, Grant Fox, a legendary rugby player for the famous All Blacks, New Zealand rugby team, led them to the World Cup in 1987. And my colleague Paul McGinley was pressing Ryan to explain the ethos of the All Blacks and how it may have translated to his own athletic career. And Foxy said, basically, they have a sort of an ethos where you cannot be arrogant. They clean up their own locker after every game, win or lose, and they almost always win. They go to the opposing team, their locker room, and they have a drink with the opposing team. But above all, it's about humility. And then Foxy stopped. He goes, I don't know how to say this, but we generally just have a no dickhead policy. So I thought there's a column there.
We clearly don't have that here, Rich.
Don't.
No.
This might be harsh. But the column could have been, if you wanted to be provocative, Bryson DeChambeau could never play for the All Blacks. What did you guys? I'm curious. You guys, as golf fans, what did you guys think of that? I want to get your take.
Well,
Kenny texted me right away.
Yeah, I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" Because I walked in, it was happening.
I'm sure know his name, but the gentleman representing the Open who explained it in the press conference to me, I learned 2 things. One, that it's not about intent. I think I had always thought it was about intent. Like if you did it, if you pushed something down accidentally, that you wouldn't be penalized for that.
Right.
And then the other one, which I think, if I were a betting man, and I am, there's got to be some sort of rewriting of this ancient rule about and I'm paraphrasing, taking the least obtrusive path to the ball, which to me is undefinable, and that would be very difficult.
Okay.
To
How about
determine.
you?
So
Kenny, Coop, what do you?
Well, I always like to lean on the other, listen to what the other players say, and I think that's always kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If they think that it's malicious, then but
no, but that's my point. That it didn't matter. That was that to me was the significant. Everybody else, at least, was saying publicly that it wasn't intentional. But it doesn't matter.
But if you kick your opponent's ball into a trap unintentionally, the ball doesn't stay in the trap.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow that
He
one.
broke the rules, whether he did it unintentionally or not. He tamped down. He tamped it down, and he made it an easier
Intent
swing.
doesn't matter. And that last step he took in, there was a giant clump of grass waist high right behind him, and that thing went flat with his thunderous footstep there, allowing him to have a more unimpeded takeaway.
Yeah.
It was, to me, it was a blatant rules violation.
And when he pulled out the edger and just was trimming right behind it, I thought was over the top.
Did he ever?
I think what bothered people was the way he handled it after. These are impartial referees, and you guys probably wouldn't be familiar with the two guys who adjudicated it, but they're beyond reproach in our sport. And this idea that they would have it in for Bryson because he plays for Liv is ridiculous. I think what annoyed people is how sort of childish Bryson was in handling that. I understand 2 shots is significant, and took him out of the last pairing. It wasn't without heavy consequence, but I don't think he handled it well. And with Bryson likes to control the message. And he's able to do that in the live golf bubble. When he steps out of that, he's not able to do it in the same way. He steps out of it only 4 times a year at the major championships. But I didn't think it was a good look for Bryson. But I will say this. We live in what I've called the what do you think economy. There's an entire economy now built around what do you think, and it's an ecosystem now, where algorithms are juiced by confrontation, and in that world, Bryson is the juice master. It's Bryson that week. It was Bryson against the media. It's Bryson and Liv against golf institutionalism. It is engage and enrage. And I couldn't go anywhere in the 4 or 5 days after without people one after the next stopping me saying, "What do you think? What do you think of Bryson?" Right? So from that standpoint, Bryson understands how to drive his business. And don't forget, when he received the 2-shot penalty, he then walked over to the range. And he does this at almost every event, right as Live From on Golf Channel is coming on air. Bryson parks himself on the range. He knows where the cameras are going to be. Can't tell you how many times a producer has gotten into my ear and the rundown may have said, we're coming on with Rory's second shot at 17, and then Scotty's third at 15, and then we're going to do a beauty, and then with 30 seconds to go, the producer will say, "Hey, scrap that. Bryson just walked to the range. We're going to park the cameras on Bryson." He likes the attention. He's a show off. I think he's gotten a little sideways. Personally, he's undeniably been a very good player, and he's close to being a great player. You can't ever forget that. But these are prime years. He's 32, and I think if he doesn't figure out what he wants to do soon, do you want to chase YouTube fame and money, and it's there for him? Fine, do it. But I think it will be at the expense of his legacy as a great golfer.
Rich, I want to talk about that because there was a point when Bryson early on was just considered weird and then pretty much disliked. And then he had kind of a miraculous recovery. I don't know. Some PR people did well with him, and then seemed like he was kind of turning a corner and high-fiving everybody and interacting with the crowd. And then that in itself has manifested into an entirely different persona with the YouTube, and now being, I guess, in some cases, kind of the villain, and certainly an enemy of Rory, who is arguably the best golfer or one of two best golfers. It seems like a lot of people are in his ear trying to morph this. Who do you want to be?
So a few years ago, my colleague Todd Lewis reported this. Bryson sat down with his team, his handlers, and they showed him some video, stomping around the golf course, mouthing off to the volunteers, whatever it may be. And they posed a simple question: how do you think you're coming across? It's not great. And they said, yeah, you're coming across like a jackass. They were blunt. And so, to his credit, he took that to heart. And I think it was one of the great personality transformations. It was, I think, on comparable to like George Foreman. Do you remember, when Foreman first came out, he was, surly and menacing and brooding. And then he became lovable George, and you can sell a lot of grills, or in Bryson's case, a lot of golf balls, if you pair achievement with likability. And I think on top of that, Bryson found out with, as you mentioned, the high-fiving the crowds, that he gets this energy from the fans. Oh, they like me. And I think it impacted in a positive way his performance on the golf course. But that said, more recently, he's picked a fight. We can't quite figure out why with the media. He wouldn't answer simple questions at the Open last month, like, hey, tell us about your 3D irons. What's that all about? 3D printed irons. And he reportedly said to one reporter, you guys are costing me millions. Like, okay. I mean, I think it's silly. I think it hurts him. But again, he's still at the center of the what do you think economy. And next time he shows up, he will be, story 1 or story 1B along with Rory. Everybody's going to chase that. And, even outside of golf, the Pat McAfees and the Dave Portnoy's are going to talk about it. And in this ecosystem, that's dollars.
But I think we're missing something here, which is because, Cooper called him the villain. And I think that is true on the one hand. On the other hand, for the anti-establishment fans, for the YouTube golf fans, he is very much the hero. And so I think part of why this moment became so big is because here is the RNA, the establishment, saying you did something wrong, and he's viewed as anti-establishment. And I think that's where him getting picked on sort of it just becomes a bigger story, because that is sort of who he is and what he represents. His attitude obviously helped fuel that. So I don't know. It's sorry.
You're onto something. You're onto something, Brian. He's very much of the moment. He's very much of these times. It's tinged with some politics. He's he was there when Trump was elected in 2024. He was on stage. He's part of the president's Council on Physical Fitness. They're alleged to have suggested to the RNA that the president get involved.
He was the attest to his 70 the other day.
Yeah.
Nice shot,
Kenny. Yeah. Nice shot, Kenny.
Kenny's costing us millions too, Rich.
Yeah, no, Bryson, that's what I said. It's this algorithms juiced by confrontation. Bryson against the establishment, the RNA, as you just said, the golf media, all of it, establishment, the PGA Tour establishment. He's gone to live, but where we stand right now, Liv's about to die. And Bryson will have a decision to make. Yeah. Does he want to come back, pay some sort of a penalty, whatever that is? We don't know what that's going to look like. And rejoin the establishment or do his own thing. And then if he does, what does that look like? Is he a YouTube sensation? I'm not suggesting he can't continue to build a YouTube empire. But at what cost? I do think if he only shows up 4 times a year at the majors and isn't involved in meaningful competitions the rest of the time, it will have an effect on his overall win totals when all is said and done.
Rich, we talked a great deal about Tiger off the top, deservedly for that incredible run. I want to ask about someone else who I think gets forgotten a lot, David Duval, who was
Doovie.
Right. He was ahead of him and they went back and forth and then Tiger took off. When David Duval was in the throes of his meltdown, I don't know how I talked him into this, but I was at TPC Sawgrass and I got him to go to a miniature golf course to work out the yips. And he's like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And it was kind of risky. I said, hey, with no offense intended, I was trying to would you look at it in a humorous way? And he did. And he was very funny. But I just wonder, covering it as you did, you had all the stories about Tiger and the excellence. What was it like being around him and covering the struggles he was going through?
Doobie was one of the great mysteries. We worked together for a few years on Live From. And, a brilliant guy at times, but you never quite knew where he was or, what he was thinking. He didn't let you in a whole lot. I'll share this with you. David once said something that kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I think it's a window into who he is. He won his lone major in 2001. It was the Open. We used to call it the British Open or the British. It's now just the Open, Kenny. I think soon it will just be called the. You're going to drop Open.
Yes.
And
I endorse it.
The. So David won the in 2001. And I said, David, you chased that. You climbed the mountain pinnacle of the sport. What do you recall about that moment? How did it land with you? He said, it was my existential moment. There's no other athlete that I could think of would ever say that, but Doovie. And he explained that it didn't fill him up in the ways that he thought it would. I thought it was quite an insight into the mind of an athlete. And in part in the book, I don't write specifically about Duval, but one of the through lines is that the wins, think Tiger, think Phil, the prolific winning doesn't necessarily fill whatever hole may be lying within. So never forgot that. So David, I would say, thoughtful, could be very funny to your exercise playing miniature golf. And remember the ad that he did, where he broke the car window. Remember, his game had completely fallen apart, and he turned that into one of the greatest, certainly one of the greatest golf commercials of all time. And so, a curious guy, not easy to read, but for about from 97 through 99, you thought for all the world, and you probably remember this, Kenny, that he was going to challenge Tiger. He was that good. He was very close to winning a Masters, 2 Masters, in fact. And so it's a reminder that the window is shorter than we all believe. Think Jordan Spieth. A guy gets hot, you think, man, they're going to be around for 20 years. But it's fleeting. And that sort of gets us back to the beginning where you just never know with this game.
This September, let's take a moment to thank your golf course superintendent. Share your thanks by using the hashtag #ThankASuper on social media and shout out your local superintendent for keeping your game on course. You know what's frustrating? Weather delays. Yeah.
Well, when you're trying to play in January in Connecticut, you might get frost warning. That's
frost
a tough one.
warnings.
You've driven
lightning,
an hour. Oh,
lightning delays.
I'll play
and
through
people
lightning.
get mad. Oh,
yeah, they blame the usually blame the golf pro first, and then it leaks to the super. What happens here in New Orleans a lot is the horn goes off as everybody gets off. There's no rain, there's no lightning, and you wait an hour, and then there comes the rain, and they're like, we could have been playing. But
early warning.
I guess they're concerned about our health and well-being.
Yeah,
which is important. If you're not, they should be.
Someone needs to be.
Someone needs to be.
It's like they're the older brother looking out for you, teaching the kids who just want to play. I played through a lightning storm in Hartford because I was on a par run. I'd made 4 in a row, and we're just daggers of lightning coming down. We're going on to 7 because we love golf. No, you should follow their recommendations. They know they got the weather forecast, even if Cooper's people are an hour ahead. Super early warning.
Do you think Eli and Peyton thank their older brother for looking out for them?
They call me Super Cooper. There it is, baby.
So we're not blaming them. So Brian, you're in California. You play year round. You make fun of me because I have like 3 months to play. No wonder I suck. But we literally will go play. I remember playing a couple years ago. We watched an NFL playoff game after playing golf. Sat at the bar. So we're playing at 38 degrees. And sometimes you have to, start at 9. You can't start at 8. There's frost, but they're taking care of the course.
That's right. There's a lot of anger that happens in California when it rains. When it rains one day out of 30, where it would be no problem, and it's like, oh, walking only today, boys. It's like, come on. It hasn't rained in 6 months. But you know what? Thank you, Super, because he's really looking out for the course.
When it's a walking only, do you guys carry your own bag, or do you put it on a little cart and push or pull?
I wait till the next day.
I agree.
I wait till the next day because I think we've got there's 365. I think we have 356 days out where I live that we can play with all weather. Guys, thank a Super on social this September. I promise they are underappreciated, and we need to appreciate them and how well they take care of our courses.
Show them love.
You've been covering it for 30 years. What is your favorite day in the booth, your most memorable day covering golf in those 30 years, and why was it 2019 Tiger winning the Masters?
It's not I write about this. The very first chapter of the book, I give it to you, is I get asked, what's your greatest memory in your 30 years covering the game? And, you could certainly throw out a half a dozen Tiger moments that I covered, and you'd think, that would be all-time most memorable. But my moment came at the world-famous Columbus Zoo. I was doing a corporate Q&A with Jack Nicklaus for the sponsor of the Memorial Tournament at the time, Nationwide. Jack and I were having a drink, just two of us on the veranda. This was a slice of Kenya in suburban Ohio. And Jack and I were admiring God's great creations. There's a tiger over there. Look at the lion and elephant. And as we're chit-chatting, a giraffe lopes into our space, maybe, I don't know, the railing, and then the giraffe, I could reach out and touch the giraffe. And Jack and I are admiring God's great work. And before we knew it, the giraffe started to take a leak right in front of us. And when when a giraffe takes a pee, it is not, Brian, how old are you? You're north of 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like that little soft butter cut off the right side of the toilet at 2 a.m, and not that little baby cut. It's the full garden hose. And Jack and I are transfixed by this. And but then we realized everybody in the animal kingdom pees. No big deal. We resumed our conversation, talking about the changes he had made to the golf course and so forth. Here comes giraffe number 2. Apologies, a little graphic, but it's a real thing. You can Google this, to giraffe mating ritual, because apparently it's drinks to loosen up in every species. And giraffe number 2 cranes its neck down to drink from the still flowing fountain of giraffe number 1. And with that, my boyhood idol, guy I grew up emulating on the putting green at my local club, Jack Nicklaus, said to me and me alone, "That's fucked up." and I went full Ralph Cramden. I said, "You're right, Jack. That's kind of fucked up." He goes, "No, that's really fucked up." And that's my most memorable moment in the game. I'm constantly, every time I think that the game is rising to this ethereal level. We ascribe this kind of romance to the game of golf. The universe puts me smack back in my place. So last week I was playing with my buddies, and we like to play late in the day, and we had like a beautiful sunset, and I had just a moment to myself on the 17th tee box. The sun was setting, and I just paused and had a moment of reflection. I thought, this is golf. And then I turned around, and my buddy Tank was taking a leak, smoking a Marlboro as he was peeing in a bush. And I thought, no, this is golf. So constantly reminded. Can I get
this is the longest we've delved into urination stories so far in the first year. But
well, let me go. Let me just. So it's kind of crazy to think that I get paid for watching golf. So I was watching this past weekend, Kenny. You've all been there. Was the Rocket Classic, but I was just watching at home. I wasn't, in the studio. You know how when and let me do this bit properly. We watch. You're on the sofa.
Yeah, sure.
You got this going
the
because
holster.
In golf. Well, yeah, because in golf, what's most important is proximity and ball position. And so I had that going, and my wife came in. She says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm working." "What are you doing?" Because that's the thing. When I'm watching golf, I'm working. Of course. And the crazy thing about our network is it's 24/7. We don't do the auto racing. We don't do the soccer. We don't do any of that. It's just golf. So like you open at 6 a.m. and you get the Leningrad Invitational on the European Tour. And then at noon, you're the LPGA Beijing Classic. And then you move into the Rocket on the PGA Tour. At 6 o'clock, you got the Dubuque 4-ball on the Senior Tour. And then if that's not enough, at 9 o'clock, we'll take you out to the Corn Ferry Tour, the Utah Open, presented by Al's Discount Refrigerators. And so at the end of a long day of watching golf, you're thoroughly depressed. And the reason I say that is you've watched all these world-class players, and you're like, damn, I suck. I can't do what these people do. And on top of that, all the commercials are just a reminder of what a sad sack piece of shit you are. You're like, well, if you watch all the commercials, like I have erectile dysfunction, I have high cholesterol, I pee every 90
Reverse
minutes,
mortgage.
and I have toenail fungus, and I can't break 90. I'm a disaster. So we can be quite the. It's a peaceful network, but if you watch too much of it, it can be depressing.
Hey, our mutual friend Corey Kozak, who's sort of a poor man's George Clooney.
Oh God, he's great,
handsome man though. You guys work together at the Golf Channel. He just said, ask him about Arnold Palmer. Give us anything.
AP. Yeah, I loved Arnold. He co-founded the Golf Channel. Give you a good story. Sort of about humility. We would come back to humility. So Corey Kozak produced features, a world-class storyteller in his own right, former tight end for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
He said you called him a questionable D1 athlete.
I wouldn't say that to his face. I'd be flattened. Corey sent me to Latrobe, 2013, thereabouts. Arnold was in his early 80s, to do a story, be like a 60 minutes, kind of a 10-minute feature on Arnold's warehouse where he stored all of his memorabilia. And, you know, there were like 3 inches of snow on the ground. It was a couple of days before Christmas. It was the greatest golf trip I've ever taken. I did not hit a single shot. So, you know, in 2 cameras, and we're walking through, and there were 10,000 golf clubs. You know, at one point, I pointed to a persimmon, a Peerless Pete, the blonde wood, and Arnie pulls it out. I can still hear the, you know, the steel on steel, and he puts his big mitts around it, and he eyeballs it the way pros do, and it gave me chills. He had the greatest grip I've ever seen. Thick mitts. He had 500 pairs of golf shoes. He had a pool cue that Jackie Gleason had given him, that Jackie used in the movie The Hustler. He had skis from the oddball Olympian Eddie the Eagle. He had a beautiful collection of cigarette lighters made by a guy named Shaggy Wolf. He had a bowling ball. I put the bowling ball in the story because it said something about who Arnold was. Having been from Pennsylvania, I knew that, you know, bowling was big, and it spoke to the sort of working class mantra of Pennsylvania. So Arnold had the leather bag and the ball, and I pointed and I said, "Did you bowl?" And he goes, "Of course I did. Tuesday night league." And "What's the best you ever rolled?" He said a 280. He was very proud of that. But yeah, if you could imagine Arnold on a Tuesday night in Latrobe drinking a Rolling Rock, you know, with his buddies, and that's what he did, and played golf. Anyway, we get through most of the warehouse. He had the Pennzoil tractor there as well, the famous Pennzoil tractor. But I see these 5 canisters of film on a shelf. And it was real sort of rudimentary. It had Scotch tape with a black magic marker, 1958 Masters, 60 U.S. Open, 62 Masters, 64 Masters, all of his major wins. And then on top, it said 1965 Tournament of Roses. And to have had a projector and a couple of recliners and a Rolling Rock at that moment, but we didn't. I asked Arnold about the one on top. I said, "What's the Tournament of Roses?" And he said, "Well, you want to hear a story?" Of course. He said, "I was Grand Marshal of the Rose Bowl Parade in 1965. If you were the Grand Marshal in the 1960s, you guys remember how big the Rose Bowl Parade was. You were a famous American on, you know, par with like a Walt Disney, people of that ilk." Arnie's at the height of his powers. He tells the story that he is in the convertible with his wife, Winnie, and the parade route is coming to an end. His father, Deke, who was a hard, tough man, was following on foot. And Arnold said, as the car was peeling off and the state troopers were coming in behind to rope it off, Arnold turned around and yelled at the police officers, "Hey, he's with me. Let him in." That's what anybody would do if their father was following on foot. Arnold says when the parade was over, his father got nose to nose with him and said, "Don't you ever pull that shit again. We are no one special. You're good at golf. Leave it at that." And so you could imagine those lessons when Arnold was a boy. You know, his father was, you know, the superintendent and the professional at Latrobe Country Club, which they eventually would own. And to put a button on that, Arnold added this little gem. He won the 1961 British Open at Royal Birkdale, where we just played. He came back to the United States as a hero. He basically, you know, sort of revived the British Open. Americans hadn't been going over much, and Arnold, you know, put it on the map again. There was a big party at the club at Latrobe, and Arnold was the toast of the town. And he says, in the middle of this big party, his father came up to him and said, "Son, you done well. Now the back 9 needs to be mowed." And Arnold jumped on the old tractor, he said, middle of the party, went out and cut the back 9. You guys, I'm sure, have heard this. You know, this sort of phrase, it's always in the work. Success is always under construction. That was the lesson there. So, I think you guys have all been around famous people. One thing I noticed about Arnie, and in watching all these other athletes through these years, the golfers, fame is uncomfortable for most of these guys. It just is. Just having eyeballs on you whenever you walk out is just a strange. It's a strange existence. Arnold loved being Arnold, and it never came across as arrogant. And what he built, I don't think gets enough credit. He was the one who pioneered a world where athletes were more famous than movie stars, where they were more trusted. It's a low bar here, but more trusted than politicians. And so he was able to sell the Pennzoil and the Hertz rental cars. And that's the world that he built, I think, for the modern athlete in a way that no one, I think, ever did. Arnold was making $30 million a year 30 years after his last win, 1973, because people trusted him.
When you're broadcasting, do you leave your phone on silent, but do you talk to people in your 3-minute break? Do you get stuff, then do you say it on the air?
Every now and then, my wife, if you ever see me laughing on the way back in, it's because my wife dropped a pearl, something along the lines of, "Ooh, I heard you guys just talking about kikuyu grass. Please, can you get to the zoysia and the tiff dwarf eagle Bermuda?" Followed by a sleeping emoji.
That's helpful.
Or, "Hey, I saw it was windy. Brandel's hair was all over the place, yet your helmet is holding firm." So yeah, there's communication in between segments. I will say this. In the live golf, Kenny, did you ever call live golf? I don't think you did.
No,
You covered golf.
I covered miniature golf in Seattle. I'll send that to you on the side.
But do you know the live golf call is highly overrated in terms of its difficulty. So we sit in the shipping container and we watch a monitor, and this is what I do. Let's go to 17, back to 11, over to 4, 9.
You just have to have 18. 18 numbers you have to memorize.
You're a glorified bingo announcer. And, with the wave that's sadly sweeping our industry, Kenny, I just want you guys to know, I'll be calling bingo in the Sunrise Senior Center in Hallandale, Florida next spring. Please come down and sit and play a game or two with me.
We think you do a lot more than what you just said, for certain. The color you add to it all.
Sounds like a perfect live remote for We Need a Fourth.
Exactly. Brian, you worked with Bill Murray, didn't you? Did you work with Murray?
I never did, but was just with him a couple of months ago. Yes.
Do you want to hear a great Bill Murray story?
I would love it.
This is a Bill Murray golf story. So obviously he's associated with Pebble. And this was, prime Tiger years. That was, as good as you can get outside of a major. Was covering Pebble like 2000 when Tiger was on the 5th hole and maybe Murray was on the 6th. We had cameras with Murray all day. We were going to do a feature for Golf Central. And Bill was on fire. You guys probably know, you've been around Bill. When he's in the mood, he's, in terms of riffing and freewheeling improv, he's Tiger. Not always in the mood. I've seen him when he's not in the mood, and you don't want to be near that Bill if he's not in the mood. But on this day, he was firing, and when he's on the golf course, obviously he's not Bill Murray. He's Carl Spackler, and everybody's yelling lines from Caddyshack. It's in the hole. You're like, no, that one's in the Pacific Ocean. You mean it's in the hole? So we get to 17 at Pebble, famous par 3. Nicklaus hit a 1-iron off the flagstick on his way to winning the 72 U.S. Open. Tom Watson chipped in there, the 82 U.S. Open to deny Nicklaus. So the stuff of lure. Murray is on the tee, and I mean, it is jam-packed. He hits a hosel rocket, shanks his iron over toward the grandstands, about 30 yards to the right of the 17th green, and he saunters over. Murray doesn't walk, he saunters. You know the Murray saunter. And he gets to his shot, and somebody from the top of the grandstand stands up and looks down and says, "Hey, Bill, Kevin Costner made birdie here." And Murray, without hesitating, looked right up and said, "Kevin Costner made Waterworld." and then proceeded, timing is everything in comedy and life, proceeded to stone the pitch shot to a couple of feet for his par.
That's pretty good.
Kevin Costner made Waterworld. How about that?
Rich, normally we kind of wrap it by asking someone who would be your dream foursome and where would you play? But instead of that, I think I'm going to pivot and say, if you were, on the desk and could have 4 great golfers right there and just shooting the breeze with them with microphones, who would you have as your dead or alive?
Damn, I'm always been fascinated with Tom Morris, just old Tom. Give me Arnie. And I'm going to throw a real curveball here. And I'm not being woke here. It just popped into my head because I know how unbelievably funny and raw she is. Joanne Carner.
Oh, Big Mama.
Give me Big Mama.
Yeah.
Do you know, I was at a charity event. Rocco and I were going to play Big Mama, Joanne Carner, and Marlene Stewart-Street, who won the 65 U.S. Women's Amateur, also a Canadian Women's Amateur champ in the World Golf Hall of Fame. So Marlene, Rocco, and I are on the tee. We're making a game. It's like bullshit. And Joanne is over by her golf cart, and she walks over like John Wayne with the cigarette dangling, and in a voice, thicker than Wingfoot Rough, she says, "What are we playing for?" So we made the game, and they proceeded. Rocco played great. I didn't, and they kicked our ass thoroughly. Big Mama is, I'd throw that in for kicks. So it's old Tom, Big Mama, and Arnold.
That's a good crew.
And
that's weird.
A little ice and a little vodka, and maybe.
Oh yeah, Arnie liked. He liked a nice cocktail. But he always, every time I was with Arnie, at a speaking engagement, whatever it was, he never missed. Arnie was always present. He had a big presence, but he was always present, and there was a real warmth to Arnie. What everybody has said about him, I found to be true. That even if you didn't know him and you had just this passing moment, he would look you in the eye as if he knew you. He would stop for a second, and not easy to do, but he was comfortable around kings and commoners.
And he could pee like a giraffe.
Yeah.
You said it.
This was incredible. I do need to give you one opportunity here. You brought up Latrobe, obviously a little further west, but specifically, we've discussed Pottsville, we've discussed Lehigh, we've discussed Reading, a couple of others. I just want to give you one last opportunity to mention, obviously, the most important city of that region, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Any final words?
How do you know Scranton?
For the people of Scranton.
Loves Scranton, PA. Hard Scrabble. Scranton. There's Scranton. There's Wilkes-Barre. Yeah. There's Hazleton.
There you go.
Oil City.
It's coal country. Nothing but love for. There's an original line. Hey, nothing but love for Scranton. Scranton.
You
PA.
mentioned somebody with 7 perfect games in wiffle ball. I'd be remiss. My late friend Mark Sansevier broke Babe Ruth's home run record in one summer, 1972.
See, how many?
In the 800s. We had to discount some because we used the fat bat, which is illegal. So I think he was about 812 when it was all done. We kept stats.
Wow,
we did too. We had we had the full the league, and wiffle ball. People
it's coming back.
Appreciate it. how hard wiffle ball truly is to hit if you're facing a great pitcher.
Or my spitball. We'll get into that.
You have a good spitball?
It drops like a yard, unhittable. You were amazing.
Rich, you were awesome. Thank you so much.
You guys didn't even, you'll have to have me back because the best story that I have,
we'll keep going.
You didn't get. If you get the book is,
tell us more about the book.
The book is Aren't You That Golf Guy? Doglegs and Detours from a Life in the Game. There's a chapter called Talcum Powder and Aquavelva. It's my personal, there are 110 chapters thereabouts, mostly short. It's like scrolling Instagram because I know
what is that
all
about?
Have the attention span
talcum powder
of
for the grip,
fly.
Like chalk. Like what?
No. It's about my introduction to the inner sanctum of any proper club. That was the men's locker room when I was 15.
Okay.
Aren't You That Golf Guy? Rich Lerner. Everybody check it out. I mean, I'm going today to get it. It's available now wherever you buy books. Rich, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
Fellas, thanks.
Thank you
Kenny,
so much.
mini golf and or wiffles. I'm down for that.
I'll be in touch. I'm giving that man a high Yelp rating. That was like as good as it gets. He had just, he wasn't done with half of his stories, but he's got a book, so you can read about it that way as well.
Rich Lerner is comfortable telling stories on a microphone. It's just soothing. I just sat back and listened and forgot I was a part of this show. I was a mere listener, and
just amazing stories, right?
Yeah. And I would love to sit and have a cocktail with him and get him wound up because There's more to Rich.
There is.
There's kind of like everybody named Rich. There's a Richard and there's a Dick, and you want them both out.
Yeah. Aren't You That Golf Guy is his new book. I'm not joking when I said I'm going to get it today. I am literally going today and checking out his book because I want to read even more of his story. 110 chapters? Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me?
One and
this
two
guy's
page
prolific.
Chapters. Yeah, that's like me. That's like someone who has the attention span of Boo Radley.
You could read a chapter for a third of the year.
You'll be fine. Just learn to read. Reading is fundamental.
Read the room, Kenny.
Read the room. Guys, we'll see you next week. I tell you, if next week's guest, they've got a high bar.
Big shoes to fill. Yeah, for sure.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.